Hello, I'm Richard Raffan. I've just made this little treasure box which was requested by my grandson for his 7th birthday. Like so many projects, it didn't go quite as I might have hoped, which should make a more interesting video for you guys. So here we have 2 bits of American white oak, kiln-dried, which are going to make a box. So basically that's going to be the base, that's going to be the lid, and this blank's going to be this way out, partly because I've already got a hole there, but also this knot will come out and hopefully leave a bit of interesting decoration on the side. So first thing I need to do is to get the lid diameter established so I know what I've got to play with when I come to fit the base to the lid. So I don't need all that screw. And this will be roughed down with I think spindle gouge as usual. So all you need to know at this stage is the diameter I've got, and also get rid of a lot of the rough stuff and basically leave a tenon at the middle which will be the knob on the top of the lid. So just using just to the left of the nose of the tool. I need at the moment. Oh, that could be slightly more cylindrical, doesn't really matter, but provided I've got a shoulder in the corner there, or not even a shoulder, just a sharp corner will do for the chuck jaws to locate. So that's round here, that's all I need to know at that stage. So that can come off and the base can go on. Drop the speed just a little bit to throw the next one on. Ooh, that hole is a bit loose. The problem was I didn't drill the hole big enough. Oh, not big enough, deep enough. Certainly deep enough now. And get rid of that. And put on a slightly smaller one. Right, again, all I need to do is true up the side and flatten the bottom and get a recess for the chuck, expanding chuck. You always come in from the face, you don't splinter it all away. Just using the wing of the tool there to flatten off the top. Right, that's round. Just put it in reverse. fairly hard and splintery stuff, and I just want to get it. Yep, so it's tearing out quite badly there where the gouge is going into the end grain. So we'll smooth that up with a scraper. Speed that up a bit, so I'm now up to about 1300. Everything's just rattling around a little bit on the chuck. Yeah, just tighten that up a bit. This should sound better now. Just ease the rest back to fractions. I've got more up and down latitude to play with. Shear cut across the bottom, which hopefully will do a better job, which it does. I need to make sure it's just going to sit on the rim, so take away that central lump. Right, now I need to use a fairly large diameter chuck. It's about 5-inch shells at one, not even sure what it is, but it's going to be out here anyway. So. That's the diameter. Barely making the mark. And I'm going to open that up with 3/4 inch, 3/4 inch square end. Bouncing around a little bit because it's only supported on about 1/3 of the back, so it would be better off with a wider backing plate. I'm only going to have a recess of about 2 millimeters, maybe 3, so the bottom has to be flat. Just cutting a dovetail using the skew as a scraper, and my little multiple straight edge, and I don't want it to be able to rock at all. That's almost right. A little bit more off the back, so the jaws will fit in there quite happily. Bit of decoration on the bottom. It just needs to be chamfered in a little bit more, and of course when I do that, that means the 2 millimeter deep recess has become 1 millimeter. So everything has to go down. And I need to check, having just knocked the camera, if it's okay. This skew has a slight radius on it. It means I can rock it back and forth. Then have the whole of the edge in contact with the wood at once. The wood would not like that. I have a slight continuity problem there, so I hope it comes out all right. this is 120 grit. Or 240. And in a 320. Fairly open grained, the oak. Going to use some boiled linseed, slop that on, and that gets right into the pores. Stand clear when you turn the lathe on because there'll be oil sprayed everywhere. And then on top of that goes beeswax, which mixes in with the oil. A fair amount of pressure there to get the heat generated to melt the wax in. This old sock is getting on, there's a dryish bit there. It's getting fairly saturated with oil and wax this time, so I might only need to apply the sock on the inside, we'll see. Okay, so that's the bottom done, and let's get that off and onto the chuck. Going on to this, which is I think 130 millimeters, which is what, around 5 inches, something like that. So that should hang on to that all right. Now the next thing is to mark the diameter of the on which I can fit the lid. So get that, I'll do that with a ruler as I've got that handy. This is 160, which is half of which is 80. So around there, maybe slightly less than that. So next thing is to shape up the outside, which I'm going to do, take the bulk off with the 1/2 inch spindle gouge. Oh, noisy stuff. It's going to be a fairly dramatic kind of curve. I can bring the diameter down a little bit, but I quite like the idea of having walls coming in and then a kind of look almost like some kind of castle. Just reduce the diameter a bit, and that's using just to the right of the nose of the tool, just easing it forwards. More control, I've got my finger under the rest. And take off that little sharp edge using the wing of the tool. Right, it's beginning to look. Yeah, that'll be good. Now I want a good clean cut up here, and I'm going to stop short because I'll have something, I'm not sure if I probably won't have beads there, I'll just have a little kind of slightly wider band. So coming up here, lining the bevel up with where I want to go, which is in, raise the handle, pivot the edge in. At the end, so that should be a clean cut, and then here I'm going to use the wing of the tool just to, don't really want to risk having a catch there, so probably be better off using the skew or the skewed shear scrape on its side. Matching a little bit. Just to get the detail down here, I'm going to get the point of this as a 1/2 inch skew chisel just in on top of their little bead. That'll mean I can sand right into the top of the bead, so it'll just make life easier. Now, coming across the bottom, drill a depth hole first to takes out the center. What have we got? I might as well use this one. This is my 3/8 spindle guide. It's got a fairly long fingernail, symmetrical fingernail grind, and I can go down just above where the flute ends. Right, so coming in across the bottom, use the 1/2 inch deep fluted bowl gouge for this one. So starts on its side. Rotate slightly to get a better cut, better shaving. Not sure the 3/8 might be easier actually. So you get there faster with a slightly smaller tool because you're not trying to take so much at once. Having a problem with the camera tripod at this end. I forgot to check the diameter of the lid. I've got an overhang of about 1/2 inch all the way around, 15 millimeters. The rest is going to be done, or a lot of it, with the 3/4 inch square and scraper. You can kind of lean right over and try and see what's happening in here, but it's much easier to look over at about 4 o'clock. This is very dusty. I'm going to take the rest out with the dust extraction on. See how deep I'm going, or what my depth is. So I really want to know over the thinnest part of the bottom, which is where the rebate is for the chuck. Heaps. So I'll just see how we're going up in the middle too. Oh, not quite so much heaps. So I need to go down about 3/4 of that. So a bit of commitment is required. See how that looks. Half that. Come in at an angle because it's just slightly easier to get the cut done. That's beginning to sound thin now. I'd also like this flat across the bottom, or even slightly domed. At the moment it's slightly dished, so I've got a gap I can see just underneath this edge. I'll get a better view there, about 4 millimeters. That is the sound of it getting to about where it needs to be. At least where it needs to be. Right, don't want to be any thinner than that. Now with a nice sharp corner here, I can just drag that across the bottom. Time to check where we are over the rebate, where the chuck jaws are. This could get quite exciting. Very exciting. So I think there's a huge amount to play with there. It's not actually a trampoline, so that's all right. Now, down the side is pretty rough, and you can't cut that with a bowl gouge because the bottom will, at the bottom, the wing of the tool will just snag against the bottom surface. So you've got to get in there with a spindle gouge. I don't want too thin a wall because that'll start flexing. So I need the gouge I've been using is about 45 degrees on the nose, and I've got somewhere here a slightly longer one. So I'll use this. And again, I'm going to be seeing what's happening over the other side. I need to start the tool right on its side. Roll it very slightly anti-clockwise to get a better shading. And go slowly and firmly to the bottom. And often you can't see too much of what you're doing because all this stuff gets caught back in the corner with the centrifugal force. Now that's a pretty clean cut most of the way. It'll need 120 grit, but that's all right. And getting back into the corner, it's going to be easier to use another scraper across here. Now this is very straight. Sure, that's what I want in there, given the shape of the thinness of the bottom. So I'll come in with the square end I've got for the moment and get in as far as I can. I just want to go more gently into the corner. More slowly down the bottom, and that means the wood's coming round more often in relation to how fast the tool's moving forward, so you get a cleaner cut. Get into that corner, I'm going to need to use the big skew, and because it's going to be used rather like a negative rate scraper, I'm going to hone what will be the bottom bevel, and that will give me a slight burr on top. Watching really what's happening at about 5 o'clock on the other side of the bowl. Right, so that's going to drift the corner down into the bottom. Right, there's a slight bump there which I could do without. I got a very nice cut coming off that using that corner, so I'll do that again, and I can see where I'm going to have to start. I look over here, it's where that pencil line is, which I hope you can see. Through the bump and out into the dip the other side. Right, that looks pretty clean. The top is slightly dished, which is what I want. Somebody's bound to ask how wide that is. 9mm, 3/8 of an inch. Right, so this is now going to get sanded. That's fine, that looks good. There's a slight bit of kind of pick up there, but sanding will take care of that. So I'm going to get stuck into this with 120 grit to start. So I know people find sanding all a bit boring to watch, but there's a little bit more to it than just holding the abrasive to the surface. There's going to be a lot of dust here, so definitely dust extraction time. Take the sharp edges off here first. First thing I want to clean up is the inside. Little ridge there. So get a fresh piece. 120. Just an irritating little bit of end grain there, so I'm going to put it in reverse. Get some fresh stuff. Now I'm going to save you watching all of this. Just turn the camera off for a bit while I go through the other grits. It'll probably take about 4 or 5 minutes. Right, good peace and quiet. So we've got the oil going in again. Boiled linseed oil. And I need the oil in here just to get right into the corner. Right, chip in there, there it is. Okay, and the wax goes in on top of that. Force it right into the corner. So this rag will just become fuller and fuller of wax, and then eventually, and there's a bit of oil in there as well, but mostly wax, so I can just apply that to a hard one. It'll give it a lovely shine. Right, looks good. Now next thing is to get this off the lathe and the lid into a chuck, and start thinking about the overall shape. It sounds thin, but it's actually just about right, so it's good. And slightly thicker wall at the bottom, but it's a fairly substantial box. So that comes off, and I wasn't too careful about measuring the. I have a horrible suspicion I might have got that tenon just the wrong size. I'll find out in about 5 seconds. shifts in the chuck, and so I'm going to have to use another chuck. 2 millimeters larger diameter would have been fine. This is not ideal. I prefer to have a better grip than this one, so I'm just going to this is not an unusual occurrence when you're working like this. So the step jaws allow me to go into the going into the middle jaw here, and that'll be fine. So the next job is to get a tenon on here which fits into this space in the center of the box. So we might look at that from a different angle. So first up, need to smooth this surface off just so it'll be easier to mark the diameter we want. So wing of the spindle gouge, 1/2 inch spindle gouge. Some dividers and hold one side and expand the other, and I do it, the grain's running this way, I tend to do it just across the grain, assuming there's going to be a little bit of movement, and the sanding will have made this very slightly oval. So these are loose fitting lids. Of course the wood's going to move over time and with the seasons. So that, let's go sideways. That'll be the diameter in which fits into the base. So the first thing is to establish that. Do that with the 1/2 inch spindle gouge again, just squeeze it in. I'm going to cut a chamfer that angle. All I want at this stage is to know that this fits inside, which it doesn't. So take that down to a cylinder, especially without the catch. So that's now cylindrical. Now I'm going to take another cut in at an angle, and that should fit tight, but that's just where I want it. I can barely rock it. So so all I need is a little bit of a shoulder, little tenon there, which is going to fit inside the lid, just really to locate the lid. I'm going to make that slightly longer, and I'll do that with my 3/8 spindle gouge, which is what I normally use for these kind of things. Slightly longer, and I'll cut in the idea here is that this is going to fit loosely inside the base. I have here a similar one, slightly smaller, which will really show you what's happening with the lid. So the idea is it's going to be like a roof on a building. It's going to overhang here so that when this will move in and out with the seasons, and it'll bow slightly as it does that. So when you look at, because this overhangs the wall, you won't be able to see any movement from the side, and so that's basically how that's going to fit. So next thing is to get the inside out, and I just need to leave, as I have on this lid, I need something where I can expand a chuck. In this case, on this lid, it happened in this little groove here, and there'll probably be something similar here. Since I seem to be doing everything on this chuck, I'll assume I'll be using that. So the inside needs to come out. It's the 3/8 deep fluted bowl gouge again. Heaps of wood up in there. Probably would have been wiser to drill a depth hole, but I've made quite a few of these as demo pieces over the years. I know where I'm going with it. Right, so that will be deep enough, I think. Just mark it on the outside, or see where it is in relation to everything else. Oh, about halfway down, so I didn't even take another cut, I think. So if it's got a nice high lid, it means you could store something bigger in the box. It could stick out of the top of the base, and you'll be all right. So I need a scraper to get around the top here. Now it's a little bit horizontal here, much safer if when it's tilting down, so just bring the rest up a fraction. I also need to adjust the light for me, if not for you. Here just to kind of brush the surface, stroke it. Little hint of vibration means I'm going just a bit too hard for the wood. Let's see how that's looking. And okay. Now I need some kind of groove or recess just to stop the jaw sliding too far down the slope. And what I'm looking for is my little skewed shear scraper. Couldn't think of the name. And that doesn't really want to do it, so I'm going to do it with a skew chisel. In fact, even better would be my small skew chisel, which, as I pointed out earlier, has a curve on it. The curve going in, it's beginning into the top of a little shoulder there. That's beginning to look better. And let's bring that around. Now I'm trying to stay out of your way. I need to get in there. I can feel the little bump there as I move the skew forward. That's okay, that's a little kind of shoulder in there. That will do the job. So the next thing is to get, that's just about right too, so that's going to be okay. This is getting, tenon is getting a bit high. I want to undercut that a bit so it's going to sit down over the base wall a bit more. That was an alarm for my daily pill. Now I need to get in onto this shoulder, so I can do that with the shear scraper. Just using it flat, so it's skewed, just gets nicely into the corner. I can also do that with the small gouge, the 3/8 spindle gouge. Even better, right on its side at the end of that cut. And now I need to come in from here just to make it look a bit better from the other side. Now this is beginning to be much longer than I need. And that's quite a nice fit. You don't want it tight, just slightly loose. If you get it too tight, when the weather changes, if you enter the atmosphere becomes more humid, the bowl will change shape, and if you've got the grain aligned wrongly, you won't be able to get the lid off. It'll just jam on. So I'm going to reduce this a bit. Little sweeping cuts. 3/8 spindle gouge. I had forgotten about the shoulder there, but it's still there, that's all right. And now I'm going to sand the inside. .120 grit. This is open enough that I can use power sanding in there. And I'm using an angle drill, not an angle grinder, angle drill. Runs at about 1400. Drop the speed a little bit, and I'm going to try and reverse as well. That has taken care of that. So back to the hands. Stuff, 180 grit, the yellow. So that will be the inside of the lid done, and once it's on the other jaws, I can play around with the shape. I don't really have any fine idea of what shape I'm going to do at the moment. We'll see how it develops. So here we are with the lid going onto there. Now I quite like the overall proportions. What I like to do is project this line of the wall up through to the lid, and should be about there. Trying not to get in the way of the camera, so I can mark that there, and that really is on this piece all I'm really worried about. I want this this overhang is about right. This will echo the shape down here. I'll take a bit of mass out of that, and I'm not quite sure whether what I'll do around here at the moment. With a shape like this, I could have the roof kind of flowing out with a smaller knob. Well, as so often with these things, I will see what happens. The grain doesn't really have too much to do with it. It'll be entirely the shape. Right, so now the step jaws are going to expand into this little recess just there. I'll basically hang the lid on the jaws, and then as they expand they'll just squeeze out down the slope, and the whole thing should run through. And it just needs, it's like turning off a tap, it just needs to be tight enough to stop the water flowing. You don't need to screw it all up tight. So it runs true. Now there's the little mark I made there, which is the relevant bit. And so that's the projection of the wall as it comes through the bead at the bottom. So I really want to mark that, so we'll cut that in first as a cylinder. I've got heaps of wood inside, so I can just shape this out again with a with the 1/2 inch spindle gouge. That's almost too big a tool, and try it with a smaller one. Tough wood. So now I'm beginning to think about how big I want the knob in relation to the whole thing. I might try a stepped lid. And this is using the 1 inch shear scraper. The rest is a shade hard. Really want the angle between the surface you're cutting and the top of the tool needs to be less than 90 degrees. This is looking too heavy. I'm going to undercut the knob. Just have a look and see how that goes onto the base. Now, to save me moving the camera every 5 seconds, I'll have a look at it up here and then bring it down and show you. Right, so this could do with, that'll curve down a bit. Yep. The advantage of working this way round with this lid is that I can take it on and off any number of times and just make fine adjustments. Yeah, what I have noticed is a bit of wood is torn out there, so that'll have to go. I've got to check whether I actually like the steps or not. Yep, I'll pursue those for the moment. If I don't like them later, I can take them off. And in case you're wondering how thick the top is, you can just have a look at that. Probably gives a more accurate representation. So just underneath the knob, it's about 1/2 inch thick. So I've got enough to play with that if I don't like what I'm doing at the moment. Now I'm going to get in onto this little shoulder when I can find my square end. For this now, the rest is coming down. Right, that won't fit. It will if I change everything here. Do that, and then we'll change that. need the skewed one to get in. And that's beginning to look alright from my side, so we'll trim this bit up here using the 3/8 spindle gouge. Just rotating it very slightly and just squeezing it past the edge. I've got that little chip out, so that means more might want to come out. And use the right wing to round that over. I wasn't going to round that, I was going to leave that square to match the, I've forgotten that. So I'll just bring it back to what I was going to do. And I'll shear scrape that with the tool up on edge. There's a little lump there. Come down here, this is still looking too wide in relation to that, so I'm going to have to do something about that. I'll be making another pencil mark. You won't be able to see this, but I'll just make another pencil mark, so the whole thing's going to change quite a bit up here. So there's my pencil mark. Pretty much as you saw before. Just let the jaws come out, right. So that's the diameter I want. Means all this is going to have to come in a bit. It's a 3/4 inch square inch scraper and needs a bit of a hone. You can hear the difference. It can stay as is. A little bit of a lump there, it means I'm not moving quite smoothly enough or something. And coming up to the top, do that. That's beginning to look a lot better, and now I don't quite like the angle of that, so this just has to come in very slightly, and then I think I'm almost there. Squeeze the tool in onto that edge. That makes the corner here extremely sharp, so you just want to get into a habit of flattening those a bit. So I'm using the wing of the tool now to shear scrape. Just looks a little bit bulky on the corner there. Right. And lengthen this one very slightly. And that's it, ready for sanding. Oh, haven't done the top. So I normally have a little button in the top, it's almost kind of trademark, so drop the rest for this, and the idea is just going to take the tool handle back in an arc and make a small arc at the other end. Now that was a whole chunk coming out. There was no effort there, so there must have been a small split or something, but oak does split very easily. Right, so that means we've got a whole different concept in what's going to happen up on this lid. So get rid of the defect, that's the main thing. And that could do, tool could do with a bit of a sharpen. It takes longer for the tool for the grinder to wind up than it does to sharpen the tool. Right, looking very stumpy little button at the moment. So I'm basically going to make another knob. It'll just be smaller. And having learned from there, I need to make it a bit heavier, a bit fatter, so it doesn't split again. Really doesn't look very good at the moment. Undercut a little bit more. And its problem really is it doesn't relate to the rest of it. It's too rounded, so that needs to be, don't believe it. So the whole thing just wants to shake, just come off. Right. Well, all you need with a box with a lid of this type is something for your fingers to grab, because so your thumb gets underneath the rim and you grab that. So I think I'm still going to be able to live with this. I suppose another solution would have been to just cut the sides off, have a different shaped knob. A teeny bit missing in there, but that'll probably sand all right. And we'll see what this looks like. Could be worse. Yep, can live with that. When I finished the sanding, I discovered that the memory card was full on the iPhone I'm using, so you don't get to see any of the sanding. It's much as you've already seen it anyway. So that is the final piece, and very happy with the way it came out. I can pick it up by that and all, but you're more likely to pick it up like that. The curve here flows through nicely into the top, and I think looks pretty good. And it's around 8 inches diameter overall, and about, people like to know these things, about 120 high, so that's what, about 4 3/4 inches tall. So a useful box to put things in.